Hey everyone, it's time for Geocache Talk. Whether you're at work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy the show. Please give it a like and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, TuneIn Radio, or Google Play, and you get all the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. Big thanks to the Travel Bugs for the music and our patrons, Demon Hunter 2, Aggie Jedi Master, Electric Water Boy, Joshua, the geocaching vlogger, Cashly, One Kind Word, Ravenclaw Tia, Shermanator 18, Butterfly Girl, Loon Trackers, the Aussie Geocacher, the Geo Gearheads, Sodak Zach, the Deadliest Cachers, Terrell 2, Neil Moore, Molly the Geocaching Dog, Team D&D, Geocaching Adam, Peachy 1276, the No Code Geocachers, Curiosity Girl, Tick Magnet, Marsipanic, Bricker John, Firesafe, Doc Firewoman, FS Sabero, Geo Rick, Cache Addict Mel, Geocaching Janji, Geocaching Junkie, Sir Drumalot, Janice, Tricassius, Tom Frey, Rugels, and our new patrons, the Bruce Zero, EGK PBR, and Casamaya. If you'd like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/geocache talk for more details. Patrons get path tags, coins, other geocaching swag during the year, as well as invites to special events only for patrons. Support levels start at as little as $3 a month. Well, we got a big show tonight. Let me start off by welcoming my co-host, Jesse.
Good evening.
And Sydney?
Sydney. Yeah. She decided to vacate us because it's about Whereigo. So that's what I'm going to stick with.
Okay. Yeah, she did not want to be on the show.
Whereigo. She refused to show up tonight.
Right. She's boycotting her own show. And so we don't know if she'll ever be on again. So there you go.
And when she does, we're going to talk about Whereigo again.
Right. So we're going to jump right into show 75 for November 5th. I got that right. Good. I had to look down at the date, make sure I had it right in the notes. As we do the Whereigo show. The Whereigo show. We need a little theme for this show or something. The Whereigo show.
Yeah.
I know. I'll find one and put it in here somewhere. Insert.
Haven't the Travel Bugs written a song about Whereigos yet?
I know. Why haven't they? Insert music. Yeah. Hang on. I'm gonna do it. Here we go. Insert music here. Okay, we left a little space. I'm going to put some music right there for us for the show. So, two announcements tonight. I'm going to actually start with the coin. So we're still selling our coin, which is so cool looking, I think. And it's a cool coin. You got to get one of these. It's a very thick coin, which is cool, and it's 3D. So the little compass spikes stick out. So it's kind of a 3D type coin. So, and the back is very cool. It's got a cool look to it. And so if you'd like to buy one, they are $17 US and $23 international. I'll ship it anywhere. So you can buy one. If you go to the Geocache Talk website, it's the bottom of the page. It says to donate, but that's just because I couldn't find the right little snap in. So if you donate,
yeah.
It's not a trick. Yeah. If you donate $17 US, then your prize for the donation is a coin. So how it's worded is how it's worded. So I wouldn't worry about that. So I had somebody ask me about that. And I'm like, well, I mean, this is the way it is. We're not a 501c3, so it's not really a donation. So anyway, the big announcement tonight is about the Podcast of Hope. And if you're not familiar with the Podcast of Hope, this will be our second year to do this. And last year we did an 8-hour podcast, and we're going to do that again this year. And we have decided as our little hosting crew for the podcast that we are going to do, once again, we're going to do St. Jude's Children's Research as our charity that we're going to raise money for. Last year we raised over $1,000 for St. Jude. We're hoping to raise at least $2,000 this year. So you like that?
Same amount of time, right?
Same amount of time, but I think
the pressure's on now.
Pressure's on. I think we can do it, and I know our fans and our all of our support folks will be love to be part of that. So we're going to provide you guys with great entertainment. 8 hours of cool entertainment for from 4 p.m. to midnight on December 10th. We're going to have great guests. We're going to have great topics. We're going to have a lot of fun surprises. We're going to talk about geocaching part of the time. We're going to not talk about geocaching part of the time. Last year we talked about movies, and we talked about holiday gift ideas. What else did we do, Jesse? We did winter caching.
There was a dog on the podcast, I think, right?
Yeah. We had holidays on the farm with Dr. Firewoman. We did that one. So there's a lot of cool things we're going to do. I'm hoping for like a vlogger roundtable. So you're going to get to meet some people that you probably have watched their vlogs and are wondering, about them, like to hear more about them. So we're going to try to get at least one vlogger roundtable with a bunch of vloggers. That'll be kind of fun. I know Joshua will be in on that. Hopefully get just a very wide range. I want to get some of the Aussies on, hopefully from Australia, to talk about Australia a little bit, and different people from different parts of the world are going to be on. So look forward to that. December 10th. Mark your calendar that night. Again, we'll start at 4 p.m. Central, and we'll go to midnight that night. So
that is late.
Late, yes, it is, but it's gonna be fun, and it's a great time that we do that. So, all right, the Whereigo show. Here we go. Let me give you a definition of a Whereigo, and Jesse's the expert. I'm just along tonight to as a person who's done a Whereigo and built a Whereigo. So we're gonna find out. And if you've ever built or done a Whereigo, we're going to keep track in the chat room some information. So everyone in the chat room, please comment on both of those things, hopefully in one, because we're going to read, because the chat room is busy tonight. Tell us if you have built a Whereigo, and if you have also, and or have you found a Whereigo ever. So Johnny Cash is in our chat room. He mentions he's done a few, so that's good. And I'll talk about some other people too as we go. So the definition, Jesse, and I found this online. So if we don't like it, we can fix it. But this is what I found. Whereigo is a tool set for creating and playing GPS-enabled adventures in the real world. Use GPS technology to guide you to physical locations and interact with virtual objects and characters. Do you like that definition, or?
I've seen it a million times. So,
okay.
Yeah, I used to put it on the bottom of Whereigos when I'd publish them. So it does kind of give you an idea, but it doesn't really. You really have to do one, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But
I agree.
To really have an idea, you have to get out and go.
You really have to go. Where I go is you need to go.
There you go. That's where you need to go.
But they're like you said, and I think some people are scared of Whereigos, don't you think?
I think so. And a lot of people, just cachers that have been around for a long time, have never done them. They don't even know what they are. There's a lot of misconceptions about them.
Wow, A.S. Gerbers, and correct me if I do that wrong. They've found 45. That's pretty good. That's a healthy amount. Healthy amount of Whereigos.
Healthy amount. They ought to know what it's like finding them. So they know what it's like. You get out and find one, but there should be a lot of difference between each Whereigo. But there should be with caches too, right? So they can be as different as each kind of cache can be. And I guess the best way to sum it up for me would be they're the best and the worst thing that GC headquarters has ever produced.
Now why do you, okay, that demands some explanation. So why is it that we'd say that? Why would you say that?
So I talk about Whereigos a lot because I like them and they're a lot of fun, and I'll talk about some of the good stuff too. But and I have like shirts made up, and it was part of my logo for a while, and encouraged people to do it and stuff like that. And I try to find them when I go to an area. And so people often say, "Hey, I had a problem with Whereigo and didn't work right." I'm like, "Yeah, because that sucks. There's a reason for that." They're like, "Well, this didn't work right." I'm like, "Yeah, there's a lot about it that doesn't work right." So I guess why I would say there.
But when it does work though, it can be pretty
Great
amazing.
potential. Yes.
Yes. And so it can be kind of a frustrating night potentially trying to find one, but when you find a cool one, it's one you never forget.
Absolutely. And I guess before we talk about the best and worst of it, the smartest thing I guess would be to clear up a few misconceptions about them. I've been at an event with cachers that have been.
Oh, what's going on here? Something's going on. Something is going on in the show.
How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's our man at the cache.
It looks like men at the cache this time.
Sodak Zach, tonight is men at the cache. So EGK PBR is there.
Yes, he is.
And Sodak Zach. And what are you guys doing tonight? What's up?
What's up? We're out here doing a Whereigo. Can you see and hear me fine?
We can hear you just fine. We can not really see you yet. We see Carr.
Oh.
There you are. We kind of see. There you are, kind of. Yes,
Oh.
there you are. We see you now.
It's facing Eric.
It's dark out here. That's okay.
Here, Eric, do you wanna grab with the other hand here? There, then you're not.
Cool.
All right.
Oh, excellent. There you are.
We're out here trying to do this in the dark because Whereigos are hard enough during the daytime.
Well, challenge. Make a challenge out of it.
Yep.
So what kind of Whereigo are you doing?
Yeah, give us a GC.
Well, if you could give the GC code, that'd be great.
I'll do that. Yeah, let me give the GC code real fast, and then you can describe what's going on.
It's section 31 here in Sioux Falls.
Yes, and I'm going to put it in the chat room as well, but the GC code is GC1QET6. Echo Tango.
So it's not too far from my house. And basically where we're at is we're at this large soccer complex. So there's just tons of soccer fields, bunch of open space. And what this guy did is he made a Whereigo, and we just got the beginning points. We went to the rendezvous point at the beginning, and it popped up with this package we got to deliver to someone named Sloan, but we have to dodge sniper fire as we go across these soccer fields. And so we'll
in the dark, that's even better.
In the dark. So you see all these names: Soldier, Romeo, Quebec, Mike, etc. And they have these little arrows, and I'll just name out a couple of them. So a quarter mile, to my left is one. 555 feet is another one. 713 feet that way. So there's snipers all around us, all these different distances. And the Whereigo works that if we here, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. We lost the video, but we hear you just fine. Keep going.
Yeah.
We're good.
So so cold out here, my phone's malfunctioning a bit.
Oh, no problem. We see you now.
So we have to walk across here, and if we get too close to any one of the snipers, we die and we have to start all over.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty cool. So there's basically from the Whereigo setup, he set up these circles of range that if you go inside of that, you'll get shot. So there's a slight path you have to wiggle yourself around all the way across this part to the finish line, essentially, and get your next, get the next instructions.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah,
I like that.
This guy does a lot of fun ones, so we're pretty excited about this one.
Very cool. All right, so you're gonna get. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're gonna get started here. We're gonna go meet Sloan, drop off the package, see where we have to go next, and hopefully it's the final, and we can go show you guys a container and get the log signed.
Well, let's hope both of you survive and make it to the end. And so we'll be anticipating whether you come back on the show or not, based on the sniper fire and everything. So
yeah, well, hopefully we both make it.
Okay, good deal. All right, thanks, Zach.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. So one thing, Jesse, that this is kind of I know we're going to bounce around a little bit, but
Right.
what he's doing sounds really cool because you're adding such an element. So um, have you ever built one with this kind of concept in mind, or what are some? Because basically, he's doing sort of a hidden zones, or what would we call this?
And it could be that. So I guess his, and I haven't done that one or seen it, but I've built some for other people, and they want certain areas. So inside of Whereigo, you can add creativity, and I know we're kind of jumping around now, but
I know. I'm sorry. We'll go back.
So like
we'll
you
come
have
back to
different
that.
zones.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you can either show them where they can't go or give them warnings as they get closer. But you can add a whole virtual, just like virtual reality, you can add a whole virtual field. Like if you're using a park,
Right.
It doesn't have to correspond with reality, like a tree or a soccer goal. It could be something, imagine like the sniper fire there, and it gives you a warning ahead of time, or you just have to start over, depending on how frustrating it is. And it could send you all the way back to the beginning. It can make you start over. It could send you forward. You can pretty much add whatever you want based on proximity and location. And what it sounds like what he's doing is based on your path, because it obviously is tracking your path. It's got predetermined locations, and they can do proximity to each other. So I can make it quite a creative experience.
Cool.
But going backwards a little bit, I guess
let's go back. We'll reset a little bit. Go ahead.
Because he's done them, you've done them, I've done them. Some of the people in the chat room may not have. It sounds like they probably have done some of them, but some of the listeners may never have done one.
Yeah, we've got a pretty good mix. We've got some people have done a few. We have some people who've done quite a few. We've got a good mix. So
I guess the biggest misconceptions I've heard. I actually heard somebody in an event ask me. We were talking about Whereigos, and they asked if it was a geocache, or if it was another game. So they've been around the game for a little while, but they thought it was a different. They had heard it before. They thought it was a whole different game. They didn't realize it was a type, just like multi or puzzle or anything else on geocaching. And because they don't have it in their area, or they just haven't ever really looked into one. But they hadn't done one, so they didn't know. We sat down and talked about it, and hopefully they went out and did one after that. But it is another type. It's another icon, just like for icon hunters out there, they're very familiar with that. It's another type for the day if you're going to do all that. The other one is, even though it's GPS based, you don't have to use a GPSR. You can use a phone. Okay. Additionally, you don't have to use your current phone. So if you had an old phone, as long as it's a smartphone, you don't have to have service on it, because you can download the Whereigo ahead of time, and that phone, just like an iPod or something, it could be used without cell service. The GPS still works. So you could go out and play with an old phone if you needed your phone available for something else.
Oh, good idea. Yeah.
So, and some people do that want to use, that mainly use a GPS and don't have a smartphone. If they can have access to an old one, they can use it. So
that's a good idea.
Still works offline. So where that's also an advantage if you're doing it in the mountains. So if you're doing it in the mountains or out of way where there's no cell signal, you can still do a Whereigo there. You can still hide one there. You can still find one there, because you don't need cell signal while you're playing it, as long as you download it ahead of time.
Yeah, and A.S. Gerbers, who's done quite a few, said that they use CGO and the Whereigo app, which we're going to talk about Whereigo later. But she says she opens the cache page in CGO and clicks download, and it downloads easily and without issues. So apparently on the Android side, it's got some nice features to it. But
yeah, and we can, if we get time in there, I guess we can talk about the different apps and the ways to use it. Just in case we never make it back to it, I would say that using a smartphone is way better than trying to use a GPS. A GPS does not have all the features that a Whereigo does. So some of the features on some of the Whereigos that are more advanced will not work on a GPS. So I would say use a smartphone for it. You can find some of the basic ones with a GPS, but not the advanced. Any of the ones that are advanced or hidden zones or any of that other stuff with timers and things like that, they can get really quirky on a GPSR. So
do you feel like, the people that are building Whereigos today, the ones that you've been exposed to, do you feel like that most of them are using something more advanced than the alpha. I mean, they're not really using the original anymore, don't you think?
I think some people are. It's
Okay.
pretty terrible. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and that's kind of if we're talking about building them.
Unfortunate.
Um,
Yeah.
if we're talking about building them, there's
We
the
could take.
original builder made by
Yeah.
that's on whereigo.com, and it's downloadable. You have to have a PC, so you can't do it with a Mac.
Mhm.
And it's last updated was 1/4 of 2008, so they are really on top of that one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Very much so.
They're
Right.
right up on top of that one. There's a if you're only an Apple person, Ranger Fox is a cacher that built an online tool for building Whereigos, and you've used that one, right?
Yes. When I used that one. A friend of mine who built some up in Mount Pleasant, Zunkai, all his were built using Ranger Fox. I was hoping Ranger Fox. Oh, he's there. Ranger Fox is like me. So he's in this chat room. He's like, "Yes, Ranger Fox, we've used yours. I like yours. I mean, I tell you, it was really good to have. I think it was very well laid out. For me, it seemed like it was. Um, well, like you were saying, Jesse, the first one is to me. I've been around. I'm in IT, so I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit, and that thing is a disaster. Now, Ranger Foxes is like 1,000 times better. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
yeah, so it's really good. We're going to talk about a couple other ones too because we want to give prep. We're not going to we want to mention a couple, but yeah, the Whereigo kit. In fact, Ranger Fox, we got a link to, and people this week I think is really important. We'll get them in the show notes. This week, and we will make sure that we've got some links for everybody because those are important to go to. We try really hard to keep some of the important stuff in the show notes or the show notes so you can look at those. And Jesse, by the way, Sydney jumped on she's in the chat room.
hiding in the chat room, huh?
Yeah, and she's like, "Who's going to do the show notes tonight?" Well, Sydney, you'll be home a while. You'll be home. You're just in Chicago, flying home, so I'm sure you could do them when you get home. So no problem. So,
so moving from that one, that's an online version. So if you only have a Mac, like I did for a long time, unless you get somebody else's PC, that's kind of your option, right? And you can real quickly on that one build stage to stage or questions. For Whereigo, and it'll download the cartridge for you, and you can upload it. I haven't used it in a while, but basically you can download it, and you can make a functional Whereigo online like that.
right.
That's going to be and I don't know what was allowed to do in there and everything else, and he's a good guy. We chatted a long time ago about that stuff. But that's the stuff he's got available on there. So if you're going to go further than that and get really deep into the features, you're going to have to get one of the downloadable builders. The one I found that I personally like the best, even though it's not super modern either, is Whereigo. That's at least how I pronounce it, right?
Yeah, because there's a W in there, so it's not
URIGO.
Yeah.
.cz is the site. So obviously that's not a .com. So if you go on the site, and when somebody pointed me to it for the first time, I was like, "What?" It's not in English. So
right,
it's not a trick. It's just not in English. Once you hit the translate button, you can see it and you can download it. Obviously, you download stuff at your own risk, all that other stuff. But that's the one I've been using for a long time. It's still only on PC. You still can't do it on Mac. So if you're only a Mac person or an iPad person or whatever, you're not going to be able to do this. But if you download that one, then you can get into the full features you can do, and we can talk about different types and features what are available. But once you get that, and I would recommend if you're wanting to do one, just download it, get started, start playing with it. You can't break it. So just download it, start playing around, and there's even an emulator in it so you can test it. You don't have to let other people test it. You can test it right there on your computer,
Mhm.
see if it works, move your little guy around, and just like the builder that Whereigo.com has, you can test everything right in your computer. So that's a
Yeah,
pretty good one.
no.
It takes a little while to learn with it, but you absolutely can do it.
Yeah, Ranger Fox mentions that Whereigo is popular, best full-featured builder available. So that's
Yeah. I think
kudos to
he
him.
may have been the one that told me about it originally,
Okay.
years back when we were talking about it. And it changes over time, but typically if you look in an area, there's a few people that'll put out Whereigos, and everybody else just goes and finds them.
Right.
So,
Right.
but so that's really the even a well-built Whereigo is going to have some quirks because people have different phones. There's updates. There's all kinds of platforms. Even if you put "Do not use a GPS" on the cache page in bright red letters, somebody
Mhm.
will use a GPS and then complain in a log.
Right.
This doesn't work on my GPS. This
Right.
is ridiculous. Thanks for reading. But no matter what you do, and try to warn them that some of these features don't work on a GPS, some people will not listen. Obviously, we've all cached or hidden cached before. But the so the bad thing. So I say it's the worst of what geocaching headquarters has ever put out, is because the last update on their own site, which they own, was 2008. It's a type that's been out there. It's not getting any updates. I mean, you should be able to program one from your phone by now, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and through the geocaching.com site somehow.
Absolutely. It shouldn't be that hard to do. But they've done no updates on it. It's the interface is terrible. The compass on your phone works terrible. The graphics look really old. I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to do one. That's the worst part of it.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
wait, something's happening.
Hopefully we hear some good stuff now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
at least somebody survived. Oh, Sodak Zach survived the sniper fire. That's good.
I did. Let me-
So Eric's with you and everything, and
well, one of us survived. Eric.
Cash her down.
Eric's down here. We don't know who shot him.
he's down. One of the
Cash her
last snipers. How far did he get before the snipers got him? Did he get a ways or?
Yeah. That's the other snipers totally got him.
Oh no!
Oh, he said I
Man
got
down.
him. Oops.
Man down.
Yeah. No. He was caught in the crossfire. We're not sure who shot him or anything. No, he still insists that I shot him.
Oh my gosh! It's friendly fire. That's terrible. You're supposed to both complete the Whereigo, not shoot the other guy so you get to the. It's not an FTF, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not an FTF, but we're pretty competitive with each other.
Right.
I'm actually gonna, if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna show you what this all entailed here.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
If you guys can see the screen, basically we had to find the data
Yep.
station.
We can see it.
I had to meet Sloan at the rendezvous.
Okay.
Find a sniper rifle. I tested it on Eric and it worked. I had
Perfect.
I had to destroy the radar and then
Mhm.
find the third data station, examine the crash site, and then find data station 2. And then we grabbed the radar from Sloan. Eric, do you want to show us what the radar?
Oh, video broke up a little bit, but we're still seeing the Whereigo. But so that very cool. The fact that yeah, somebody says so. Dave Mills like, he admits it. Yeah, he did.
But that's a good point. So what we showed on the screen, which people listening obviously can't see, is he was listing tasks. So after saying that all those bad things are there, bad interface, not accurate, hard to program, everything else, he is helping us switch to the topic of what's good about it. So the reason why I say it's the best thing they've ever come out with is right there, those tasks. There's a whole list of tasks and storyline that you can come into with pictures and words and locations. and like this story here. So instead of just going from one station to the next, and maybe a little, there's maybe a piece of paper shoved in a bottle that tells you a story, and you go to the next one. This one follows along, has sounds. Those sounds can be like in the middle of the night, sniper fire. It can be doors creaking. It can be whatever the imagination of the hider is. Now the story is more immersive. You get into it. There's multiple stages. He's doing it in the middle of the night, so obviously you can do them at night. You can make them that only work at night, so a true nighttime one. Oh,
wait a minute.
Guys?
Somebody showed
Something else is happening.
Whereigo show.
Oh, Sydney. How are you?
Oh, I'm hanging out in Chicago right now. It's a great time.
So you came on to talk about Whereigo's the best type ever, right?
Sure, yeah.
Well, I can't hear you breaking up. How?
No,
Oh wait, I can't hang up on you. Never mind. Go ahead.
We can hear you fine. We can hear you fine, Sydney.
Oh,
thanks.
Gary's in charge.
I'm sorry. Yeah, she's. I like your comment, Sydney. That it's a forgotten relic. It kind of is, sort of. But fans are keeping it alive, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a valid type, and
Absolutely. And can be very creative. Like you can't. Where Sydney? Are you in the airport right now, Sydney?
Yes, I am.
So you couldn't hide a traditional there. However, you could have a Whereigo that starts there and plays all around that area, but you couldn't have a physical cache there. The physical cache could be somewhere else.
Right.
So
interesting.
there's one advantage of one there. If you have a location like a monument or somewhere that wouldn't allow caching, you could have the story go through that, and the physical cache be outside somewhere else. So
That's a good point. I like that.
Just saying, just throwing that out there.
So Sydney, you've done some, right? You've done some Whereigos.
You've done a bunch, haven't you, Sydney?
I've done a handful.
There you are.
Yeah, you guys are breaking up a little bit, so I don't think I can stay very long. But
That's fine. We can see you. Keep going. So now, you've built some too, right?
yeah, I've built 3 thanks to Jesse's help, actually.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But that brings up a good point that we'll get to later. But don't want to take her time doing that. But she brought it up. You can help other people do it. So that's kind of a cool aspect of geocaching too.
Or if you just ask Jesse real nice, he'll just do it for you.
That's probably true also.
Be real nice about it.
Yeah. But
yeah. So your overall impression then, Sydney, if we lose you or anything, honestly, what are your thoughts?
So I've built 3. They're kind of hard to figure out at first. But kind of once you get used to it, you kind of get the flow of it and, figure out what you have to do. And then you can start adding some new things. The only problem I found is that a lot of times people put it out there and they don't get maintained. The cartridge or whatever doesn't get maintained, so it doesn't work anymore, or the cacher's not, participating in the sport, and then, it kind of doesn't work anymore. It's broken.
yeah, that is a bummer.
We had one that we were doing one night, and in the night it was late in the afternoon. But part of the problem was that things had changed in the area a little bit, and so like you were saying, the cache owner was not aware, and they didn't really keep up with the area, and so a street name had changed. So we were really confused when we got to one part of the cartridge, and it said, put in, I think we had to put a street name in, and we're like, we tried putting the street name in, it doesn't work. But we did send a note to the cache owner, and they did help us through that. So, kudos to him that he was able, we sent him a message on geocaching.com, and he helped us at that point. So, those kind of things happen. That's
In
not.
fairness, that happens with all cache types, right?
It does. Exactly. It happens with everything. Yeah.
We actually were finding one where Sydney is right now, not at the airport, but in Chicago. And she looks around like, where? I get to get a cache. And we actually rented a 4-person bicycle because it was up and down the beach or by the little river or whatever.
Right.
And spent about 45 minutes doing it, and got to the very end, and the cartridge crashed. And you had to start all the way over. Like, you couldn't start back where it was, and it was terrible because we were right at the end of it. And no Whereigo in Chicago for us, so that was very, very frustrating.
Now you could build them, right, Jesse, where they don't have to start all over again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, and you could build them with codes in them. They get to a certain code, and if they ever had to, they could, start back at that code location instead of starting back at the very beginning. So kind of skip your head like you would with a multi-cache or something like that.
And so, Jesse, you can build a really simple Whereigo, right? Tell everybody about so if people want to get started, they can build Jesse's simplest Whereigo ever.
Easiest Whereigo ever.
Easy. That's right. Not simplest. Easiest Whereigo ever. So explain to everybody what the easiest Whereigo ever built is.
For people that like what Sydney's doing right now, she's flying out somewhere. There's a series of hotels by the airport.
She's hoping to fly somewhere. She may be stuck in Chicago tonight for the rest of the night. So,
but when you're trying to fly out somewhere and there's hotels nearby or right by the airport, usually you want to see if you can sneak out and get a cache real quick. But you don't always want a traditional. So I've hidden a few or two of them right now, but real close to airports or locations where people stop by real quick near the airport. And they're actually labeled the easiest cache or the easiest Whereigo cache ever or something like that. It's a one Whereigo. And literally when you hit open, it says, look in front of you, and it's their LPC right there. And you just lift it up, and it's got a picture of the thing and everything. But I was trying to build a 1-1 Whereigo that somebody could find in like 2 minutes. You could probably guess and never even open the Whereigo, right? And still get it.
Yeah.
But it's funny the comments you get. Yeah. People are like, this really is, I thought you were kidding, this really is the easiest Whereigo ever. And I got a Whereigo as I was doing a layover, and it's great. So.
Yeah, Ranger Fox said the same thing. It's cool though. You open the Whereigo cartridge, it tells you to basically look in front of you, and there it is. So there you go. You finished the Whereigo.
That's right. It's like 13 feet away from where GZ, and 13 feet, and there's a lamppost. So, but it's funny. I get some funny comments because people always think it's a trick. I'm like, no, it says the easiest Whereigo ever. So, and it's marked as a 1-1. So, but you can make them super easy like that. And I don't remember what yours are, Sydney. What kind they are?
One of them is like a play anywhere. Just answer some quiz questions basically, and then the other two are just you walk along and you have to answer questions about stuff that you find along the way.
Oh yeah, and those are like play anywhere, and the other one people typically call those like tours, like a tour Whereigo. So like you're walking through a park and you answer based on signs and stuff. Like that other terrible cache type where you answer signs about nature. But you keep moving on.
Ba-bam!
That doesn't
shots across
like Whereigo does, right?
Oh, wow.
No, so play anywhere Whereigos, I kind of relate those. If nobody's ever done one of those, I would kind of relate those to a puzzle cache. So you can solve it anywhere. And once you solve it, it gives you the final coordinates. That's the simplest kind. So you could sit at home and figure out whatever the tricky questions are for the Whereigo, just like you would a puzzle, and then you go do it. I mean, they can be a lot more complicated, but the simplest version. And the tour is where, you walk around. And the coolest one of those I've done, I didn't build it, I did it, was actually got off the plane, and I still had my suitcases. I couldn't check into the hotel yet. We went to the Boston Freedom Trail. So we were in Boston. And walked
cool.
like, I don't
the
know.
Freedom Trail.
3 miles or something, I don't know, with suitcases and everything, looking stupid, like tourists and stuff, and doing the Whereigo at the same time. But it was a really excellent Whereigo, but it was a tour, but it took you to Paul Revere was here kind of thing. So it was pretty cool.
Well, those are very cool. Now, do we want to talk about? Can we talk about the one that you and I did when you came down here? Not mine, but the one that we did with the inventory. Is this where you want to talk about inventory and?
Why don't you remind me about that one?
Okay. We did. It was over. We'd done Tombstone, and then we went and did a Whereigo. You remember now?
Park, the dog park or whatever?
The dog park. And so I enjoyed it, but one of the things I sort of started to get tired of, I guess, was the person like had figured out how to include the inventory into the Whereigo, and so they decided, you know what, they kind of went crazy with inventory. So you had to constantly be going around finding stuff and picking stuff up virtually, and
then taking it somewhere else and dropping it off and
they kind of went crazy. So I liked the concept, but I think it went a little too overboard, maybe.
It was a good one though. It was fun, but I think we walked 5 miles in a pocket park somehow.
Right.
Just back and forth.
Hey, you get a lot of that. Whereigo will definitely get you out walking a lot of the time.
And, you know, so we kind of talked about the easiest one ever. That's kind of like a traditional. You can't get, you know, you can do whatever you do with a traditional. The play anywhere one, which is kind of like a puzzle. Solve a puzzle and then go. The tour one, which is kind of like that other type, the geology type. So, you know, you can go and answer questions. Obviously, the one we did was like a multi-cache, except for it was more interactive and there were sounds and pictures and stuff. So that's kind of why I think one of the Whereigos are so neat, because if you're creative, you can make every other cache type with a Whereigo. You can do what every other cache type can, but the other ones can't do what a Whereigo can. So it's kind of neat. You're playing the little game. You've got sounds, you got pictures, you got you know, you can have an intense storyline. It can only work at night or on the weekends or whatever time is set in it. And you can do all the things all other cache types can. So if you're creative, it can be really neat.
I love the idea, too. Not that I'd be good at it because I'm not really in the greatest shape. I am better shape than I was. But the time limit ones, that's such a cool idea. You have to get from stage to stage, and you only get a certain amount of time to get from stage to stage. So that's kind of fun.
And there's a bunch of those out there. If you search around, you can get ideas, you know, from people. But there's ones where you have to walk or ride a bicycle on a bicycle trail, and you have to hit the different locations within a certain amount of time. So those are kind of neat. There's a timer that'll count down and, you know, add stress to the search, I guess. So there's a lot of things you can do with them with the timer. Like we said, nighttime, you can affect. So no other cache type can do this. You can affect when the person can do it. So you can set it down to the second of when the cartridge will actually work. So only after 10 o'clock at night, or only on Mondays, or whatever. Obviously, if you make it too tough.
Are they calling yours, Sydney?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump off real quick. I think we might be moving along shortly. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining the show. And apparently, you don't hate Whereigo. You've confirmed that.
That's not true. I don't know who said that, but
just admit it. You love them, and they're the best type ever.
Right. Sure.
Sure. You just got her to commit that. No.
That's right.
Thanks, Sydney. Safe travels back home, and we'll see you. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Bye, Sydney. There goes Sydney. So
I kind of jumped around a little bit, but I do want to mention some of the features that are available.
Let's mention that 1 second. Let me get in the chat room a couple notes I want you to comment on, Jesse. Okay. Ranger Fox commented on, he says he's claiming credit for a Play Anywhere cartridge that he created, and he did it, and let me find the comment again. He created the first Play Anywhere allowed to have a final geocache. And here's the comment that I thought was interesting. He says, I had to convince Groundspeak to rewrite the rules on that. Have you ever, in your experience, have you ever had to interact with geocaching.com? Have you? Okay. Talk about that for a minute. Talk about that for a minute. Okay.
So not with the same thing he just talked. Obviously, I'm always either filing an appeal or trying to push the envelope, or seeing if I'm allowed to do certain things. Some of them I am, some of them I'm not. But exactly like he did, when you come up with something new and creative, and now I came into the game later than a lot, than the original people or whatever. I hadn't been doing it forever. So he had, him and other players that had been doing it for a long time were, kind of paved the way for a lot of the Whereigo stuff. But I found some things, and I found some things that, and rightly so, the reviewer said, no, that's too crazy. So I tried to put out one that it wasn't so I've done Play Anywhere ones, but I tried to put out one using the random number feature. So there's a random number generator in it, and one of the features you can build into it is like I made people guess a number 1 through 100, and they had to get the number right before it'd go to the next step. But it's a true random number generator, and they're like, so you could theoretically guess this for 1,000 years and never get it right. I'm like, well, yeah. They're like, no, that's ridiculous.
They're not gonna let you do that.
I agree. It was ridiculous. But I was just seeing what it could do, right? And so I was pushing that. So a lot of times I have had to push things to see, is this allowed? Is this, are these kind of things like this allowed? And some of them are, and some of them you have to change. But some of them you do have to push all the way up to the end and go, because they'll say, I've never seen this before. And luckily I've got good reviewers, right? They're willing to go, okay, this is, you got me. This is creative. I don't know if we can do this or not. And they're willing to, work you through the process. Some things they have to say no to and should. And, but some things that you do have to appeal and get one in like that. So, we've done ones that are night. We've done ones that are all the way up to 5.5. We've done some crazy ones over time. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Go back to
thanks, Ranger Fox, for getting those allowed.
Yeah, really. Absolutely.
For sure. Those are fun. Those are fun types because they're just like puzzles. So I've downloaded that Play Anywhere type of areas I'll probably never go to or may never go. I don't intend to go to now, just to see how they play and have fun playing them, because you can play them independently of ever going to get in the final. So I'll do that tons of times. They'll be like movie trivia or things like that. And they're just fun to play. They're free, fun little quiz games to play. So
it might give you some ideas too if you play some of those. It may spark it may spark something in you. To go, oh, I never thought about it, but I can make this something I'm interested in that I may not spur. It may spur some creativity out for you for doing those.
Right, and I've got a big file. So one of the things Cindy mentioned was I'd helped her with some Whereigos, and generally, I can't say this for everybody, but generally people that build Whereigos really like doing it. If they build a lot of them. And like I've talked to Ranger Fox, I've talked to some other people, I've talked to people in other states, and or other people have called me, and I keep a file of all the ones that I've built. And if somebody calls and asks me, asks me about them, I'll send them a whole file of all kinds of stuff, especially if they're out of state. I'm not worried about them cheating. It's not like, my next door neighbor asking for them. It's somebody from a whole nother state, and they're like, I'm getting started, and I'll send them all kinds of templates. Try all of this, because I've had other people sharing with me too. They download them and they can, play them, copy them. I don't care. The more fun caches that are out there, the better, in my opinion. You don't have to put my name in it, nothing like that. And I think everybody that I've talked to that builds them is the same way. They'll share them, unless it's something special and unique, that you don't want to give a secret away on. In general, you'll share them, and cachers are pretty open about that stuff. So, yeah,
and some of the comments from they're in the chat room recently is just do ones that you think that a lot of times if you like them, but think about if there's something that you think that other people would want to play, and you don't want to do the worst thing I think you would ever want to do with a Whereigo is to scare people off and try to do something that isn't fun. And it's just it's just a bunch of work. The one we did had a lot of favorite points. I liked it, but yet if she would have gone a little further in I got to pick up another stupid inventory item and drop it, you're going to start losing me, because you got to sort of think through what a person is going to do, so you have to kind of keep that in mind, I think. So.
Well, I think that's only fair. It's like if you're doing a really complicated multi-cache, you should probably give people an idea. Hey, this will probably take you about 4 hours or 5 miles of walking to do. So same with the Whereigo.
That's perfect. Yes.
As much as I'm an advocate of Whereigos, my wife won't do them, because she went with me. We stopped through an area, and I was like, oh, there's a Whereigo, and we got a little bit of time. Let's do it. We had a phone. We go into this park. And there was no warning on anything. And it was a really neat Whereigo. It's like, I don't know, medieval, whatever. And you start doing it, and I didn't look at the logs ahead of time because I didn't want any spoilers, right? So I just start doing it to download it. And I'm walking around this park. We're hitting more and more stages. And my phone is getting lower and lower in battery. And I get down to like 4% battery. And I'm not at the final yet. But I've invested like an hour now. I don't have the car charger's like 2 miles away. I'm afraid it's going to crash. She stopped. She gave up. And I'm literally running around this park looking like an idiot with my phone before it goes to 0%. And luckily I got it. But we spent an hour, we didn't have our phones charged properly because we didn't know it was going to take that long. It looked like a simple Whereigo. So that turned her off after that. She wasn't interested in doing Whereigos, hadn't done that many since then. Just because it didn't give you any warning.
Right. No warning. And what's interesting, talk a little bit about this for a second. Peter Stepanek in our chat room, he mentions that he did one and it had a way to do a fast forward. I did not know you could do that. So
you can. So a Whereigo, just like, think about it in terms of a multi-cache, right? There's a multi-cache. Everybody's done those or seen or heard about the choose your own adventure type multi-caches where you make a choice and you go to either one location or the next based on the story. You could do the same thing with Whereigo, right? Like this is the long version. Right. So you go to A, B, C, or you can jump straight to location D. And you could do that based on a choice, based on however you wanted to do it inside the game, right? So that would be pretty much up to whatever you wanted. Or, like Sydney talked about, each stage you could give them a code. And if you're crashed or you had to come back another day or whatever else, there could be an easy question at the beginning, do you have a code for a certain stage? And you just type in, A, B, C, D, and it takes you right back to stage 6. You don't have to go all the way through them again.
That's good. So you could do part of it and come back if you didn't have time. Like you only do part of it and you didn't, right. Very cool.
Right. And it's one of the features, because you can control when people do it. So the best night cache I've ever done was Whereigo. First of all, it only opened at night. And each stage would only open at night. So it'd be hard to cheat unless you're changing. If you're going to cheat, you're going to cheat, right? But if you're playing it in good faith, you can only do it at nighttime. And there's sounds and there's creepy, wolves howling and stuff like that. And creepy little children playing by this vacant house and stuff. And so it was fun. It was neat to go through and do like that. But you can control that. So no other cache type can control when people do it. Because if you put out a nighttime cache, have you done many of those? The little fire tack ones?
I've done a couple, and I actually have owned 2.
Yeah.
Now I was gonna back up real quick. So a Halloween one, would we call it a Whereigo?
Oh yes. Gosh, terrible. All right, Zach.
Cha-ching for me, baby. Woohoo!
That's right.
I win.
If you put out a night cache that's got fire tacks in it at 8 o'clock in the morning, before it gets dark, it'll have 5 finds on it, right? People don't wait till the free time. They take away from the experience. So that's why I think that's pretty good. Also, it can
you can control that. That's great that you can control the timing. So
think about the creativity you can do with that. You can make it a 5-day cache, right? So you can only do the first stage on Monday, second stage on Tuesday, third. So there's a lot of stuff. I will tell you that if you try to do one that you can only do like 2 hours a week, it won't be published. So,
right.
I'm going to throw that out there as an example, but I did try to do something stupid like that at one point, and then rightly so, my reviewer said no. So, but you can get really creative like that, right?
Right.
And there's a way, we wouldn't be able to get into the programming side of it, but just to tease people with it. There is a way, and there's one here in Colorado, and another group of us figured out how to do it as well, where you can have 2 people doing them simultaneously in different parts, totally unconnected, but they have to work together and run at the same time. There's a code and a way you can do that. So like you and I could be doing one in different areas, but we have to communicate and give information to each other to continue through, but we have to finish kind of at the same time. And then we'd finish together at one location or whatever for the final cache. So you can get really creative with them. Like I mentioned, that random number generator. There's also, you can do math inside it, so it can add up the items and tokens you get. You can take them to certain locations. It can only allow you to get to the final if you've collected all the stuff. There's a lot of really creative things you can do with it. I think it's worth the effort. Go do some first, obviously, right? Download some to your smartphone. Go do some and have fun with them. But then try to put some out. And there's a lot of ways to go about doing that. But what I would tell you is reach out to somebody that's already built one. They will absolutely help you. Reach out to me. Send me an email. I'll help you get started. I'll help anybody, with them, because I think they're a lot of fun and they're really creative cache type. But
There's a bunch of people who have asked tonight in the chat room if you could comment. I know we can't get into a lot of detail tonight, but we want to get into some, which is people really want to have you talk about reverse where I go.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what is it? What is a reverse where I go, and what are some steps you would take? Talk about reverse where I goes.
That's perfect. So a reverse where I go in its most basic form. Like say if we started one right here where we are right now, I start it, hit a button, and it would tell me I'm 5 miles from the cache. So it doesn't necessarily give me the direction or the bearing. It could give me the bearing, but most of them are direction. So then I move a certain direction, and now it says, okay, now you're 4 miles from the cache. I move another direction, it goes, oh, you're back to 5. So I went the wrong direction. I adjust. Now you're 3 miles, 2 miles, 50 feet. It's 10 feet away. That's the most basic where I go. There's a bunch of templates running around for people to do, and they have them in just about every state. They're pretty neat. And
so people can get a hold of. And Electric Waterboy mentioned in the chat room that it's already built in a sense. You can get a cartridge that you could then modify. Is that what I'm?
Yeah,
hearing?
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of them floating around. Of the basic ones like that. But you could build that. So that's a super easy one to build. If you wanted to get in, that's even it really is easy to build.
It doesn't sound easy, but I'm afraid of that one. But
the easiest where I go ever, but it is.
Okay, but it is easy. Okay, I gotta try to do one
and here's the reason why it's so easy and a good example. I'm glad you brought it up. It's a good example of why where I go is fun. So you get in there and start building. It's really simple. You can build a simple one right and then build onto it. Well, there's a lot of information it'll return based on your phone or device, right? Time, day. It'll return your location. It'll return your distance from your location to another location just by one setting, right? And just say display this. Well, when you say display this, that's the whole reverse Whereigo right there.
Oh, okay.
That's all it takes.
Yeah. Ranger Fox mentions get 3 distances. Then you find the confluence point. You can do that with proximity circles on their GPSR.
Yep, that's a way to do it too. So, and that's a complicated way. What you can also do, and I built one for somebody close by, was now add a puzzle aspect to it. So solve a puzzle, then you get your distance. Then you move again, solve another puzzle, or answer some more questions, and you get a distance. Or create some other kind of task. So you can. So the most basic is you're this far, now you're this far, now you're this far. But you could do that at night. You could do that with puzzles. You could do that with name that tune. You could do that with, because you can do music, right? You can do sounds in it, and you can have to type in what your answer is. Is this song, this song? So you can any basic cartridge like that out there. You can add whatever you want to it. So think about anything else you can do with any other cache. And another important aspect of it is it doesn't have to be like a really simple one. So you can combine it with gadget caches also. Because you can ask whatever information you want. You get to the final, or you start at the final. You have to go somewhere else to get a code to open the gadget cache, or to get hints, or whatever else. You can combine them with gadget caches pretty easy. Because it can interact, right? Now I see this information. I can type this information in, and it'll give me another hint. So you can combine them with just about any type.
Right. So there was a note that Electric Waterboy mentioned that on the one he has, at the end of it, it gave you a code to create your own. So you could
you can do that.
So there's different things you could include once somebody is finished, other than just the final coordinates.
Oh, absolutely. And the one he's talking about is exactly what we were saying. So there's a guy, and I can't remember who did it, but there's a guy that was helping people create reverse Whereigos. So if you finish it, it gives you a code, and it helps you create your own after that. Because people want to share them. People that generally like building them, like doing them, and want to see more everywhere. So that guy, and I can't remember his name. Maybe somebody in there knows. But
we'll find it. I've actually got a code from him, and I need to use it. But he created. I'll put it in the show notes. But he'll send you he'll actually create a test one wherever you live.
Mhm.
so that you can see it. It won't really go anywhere because
Right.
the final, obviously, it's not going to go anywhere. But it gives you the guts of it, and it'll the final of when you go find it, you're not finding anything because again, it's a test. But that's I like the idea of that one.
Yeah. And that guy's great because he's helping people that don't choose to take the next step to build one have
Right.
one. But I would encourage people to build them. So go find them first, then build them. Either get a template from somebody or reach out to other cachers in your area and just say, hey, will you show me how to do this? Unless they're just not friendly, they'll help you.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
Sydney and I have both, I think she hosted one too, but Sydney and I both hosted events where we helped other people kind of figure out where I go and talk about where I go. I've done a couple of them where you sit down, just say, hey, bring your computers. We'll sit in the library. And the whole geocaching event is just building where I goes. And by the time everybody leaves, you have a dozen people, and a dozen people have brand new Whereigo cartridges. And they can publish them right after that point if they wanted to. So the best way is just to reach out to somebody else. Right.
Let me ask you a question with the rules with the GPS when the rules were clarified by geocaching.com recently.
Well, they were muddied recently.
They were muddied or they tried to clear them up. Of course, one of the first things you did was go read all the rules again because you're like, how is this going to affect where I go? So what in it should we know about where I goes in the new rules or is there anything that
and I reached out to my reviewer to check about them because they're kind of confusing, right? There's some proximity issues, like if your pin's here and I'm at GZ, there's distance issues with it. So reading through all of that, it doesn't affect, so I have some that you have to hike a couple 14ers. And then when you get to the top of each of the 14ers, it gives you, the next location. You go to the next 14er. Mountain for anybody that and then you get to the final. So that's several miles. It doesn't affect that. So straight line, it doesn't affect it. What that general rule is confusingly trying to tell people is don't put a pin like in Texas and it has nothing to do with anything and the final's like in the next state.
Okay.
Right. So, and of course we know that's because they want you to generally be close to GZ for trackable mileage and stuff like that. And people not just making crazy geo art and putting them all over the place that it's not even anywhere close, like on the ocean and stuff like that to fudge the elevation numbers and stuff like that. So it has to be generally close or progressive, as a trail where you're going. So it's not just a way to cheat and just make up a fake GZ. So
right. So we do want to mention. I will mention. I'm not going to plug the book too much, but in the book I do have the top 20 where I go. This is based on favorite points, but one of them I want to mention in here is the top one, which is called Prognosis Negative. Ravenclaw, it's down your way. It's down in Round Rock, Texas. But the interesting thing, and I just want to comment on, because I think people are like, where it goes. But listen to what this person said, and then Jesse will come on over and talk some about some of the ones you've done. Here's the comment that they made. From the very beginning, I knew right away that this was going to be tough because you can make tough where it goes, and I want you to comment on that too, if you would, please, in a minute. I play video games all the time. I have to say that this game was very challenging, both physically and intellectually. I had to explore my inventory, which is, we talked about virtual inventory, where you can virtually pick up items. So this person had to constantly check their inventory several times before I figured out the answer to some of the puzzles, because this particular Whereigo has puzzles built into it. And the combination of the real world with the digital world was simply brilliant. I liked how the story was put together. Very nicely done, because this one has a story that goes with it. Time limits on this one definitely added a stress element that made the cache fun. And then they go on to talk about things that were physically around them that they were that they interacted with, or in some cases did not want to interact with, because it was in the woods, and so they ran across some spiders and the usual stuff we run across when we're geocaching. But they said, bottom line, if I could give more than one favorite point, I would. And they said they're going to add this. This is like the cache that everybody must do if you live in the state of Texas. So that really was, when I researched the book, that was really the what I got when I found the 20 that had the most favorite points based on the most finds. That's what the book's based on. Every one of them has a story like that. It's something that they were involved with, and they'll never forget it because of what they did. So, in their case, and I'll look it up real quick, but prognosis negative is a 4-4. So a little tough. So what is it about, or what are some things that you could really do to make it a tougher Whereigo? Because we're talking about the beginning stuff, but once you kind of get more advanced, what are some things you feel like you could do?
So some of the ones that I've built and done, I had one that, so you can, some of the easier elements, but more advanced elements you can add in there. You can add in QR codes. So now you kind of need 2 devices, right? So you can add a QR code that gives you more information, or a code that you have to scan with another device that pops up within the Whereigo. I had one that had a phone number in it. So you get to a certain point, and it went along with the story. It was as long a theme of this one was along a theme of like Amazing Race. So you're rushing around town and doing stuff. We get to an area where there's no payphones anymore, but you get to an area and the story is kind of like it's a payphone. You got to call in a phone number, and it calls a Google Voice number, and you have to interact based on the information off of that. There's you can do fun things like add in. I did one that was you go around to different benchmarks in the area, so people get like 10 benchmarks to claim and the Whereigo at the end. So those are the kind of the easy things where you can interact with your physical or virtual environment. But I had one that it's not still out there now, but it was out there for a couple years, and involved with the hike around a mountain was you had to bring some items with you, a ruler, some graph paper. You had to figure out some puzzles in the field based on an astrology chart. You had to bring a bunch of this stuff with you and hike, and then as you get up on top of the mountain, then you have to solve these puzzles based on the information you have. So you're bringing tools with you. A compass. You had to bring some other things to make some field calculations. So now you're tired, you're hiking, and it gets complicated. If you don't solve the puzzle, you're not going any further. So it's really right. Now there's ones also, I've done ones that you have to boat to. So it's a good it's good for that. So you can go out in different locations. You have to boat to different locations in the lake and get to it, or swim, or go to an island. So there's raising your terrain too, right? And the difficulty can be just like any puzzle. You can add as much difficulty as you want to it. So,
something that comes to mind when we're talking about this is that if you live in an urban environment, and this is something, if you're Mudak, she lives in, she's in the LA area. Instead of just hiding a traditional under a lamp skirt, and I personally don't mind those, but some people don't like those. But how cool would it be to have that be the Whereigo final? Because you will have had a great experience getting to that final, and the final doesn't always have to be earth-shattering, but you had a great time. It would still be a cool Whereigo, and even if the final's not, puzzles, a lot of times people love certain puzzles, and if you ask them, what was the final like? They're like, well, I don't know. The puzzle was just, the final was nothing. The puzzle was awesome. So to them, that geocache was awesome, even though it's it's just a lamppost skirt cache,
And I think you have the opportunity to be more creative than you can with any other cache type. And I would debate that with anybody if have a different opinion on that, because what other cache type could you start at one location, tell them they have to have their headphones with their smartphone, and now each location you get to, it's talking to you just like reading a book to you.
Right.
Or talking to you like it's a conversation. Now you need to turn left at the stop sign. Okay, go to the next location. Ding, you get there. Now you need to look up, look at this, look at that sign, read the 4th letter, convert that to numbers, and now move from there. It could be an all auditory geocache, which you couldn't have. It's hard to recreate the stuff that Whereigo can do, even though it's a really terrible builder and interface. It's worth suffering through to get the creativity. Add in pictures, QR codes. You can add all kinds of stuff in there. Anything, see or hear a lot of things. It doesn't do video, but outside of that, it does, timers. It does a lot of kind of stuff that interact with environments. You can do anywhere that you want to add a cool story to, but can't have a physical stage.
Right.
Probably the best way to do it, right? I don't know how else you would do it otherwise.
Yeah, and Ranger Fox mentions he created one where you listen to audio tapes left by different people, and then you try to find out what happened to them. So you make a mystery. It's like you've added a mystery item, like you could do a whodunit or any kind of mystery type. If you're interested in that, if you're interested in mystery, if you're interested in horror, if you're interested in just different adventure stuff or whatever kind of, and this is where I goes allow you to include, because we talk about this a lot of times, is that can you include your hobbies, other hobbies you have, if you're interested in whatever, but you also geocache. This is an opportunity to combine the two items together sometimes, which you can't always do that. So,
right. You can be as creative as you want with it, right? It's just it's just another type, it's another icon, and the opportunity to create something really unique. You can make it whatever you want to make it.
Yeah. So, but you need to start. Do an easy one. Try the different. Try Ranger Foxes if you like that one. Use that one. Try the Whereigo, and we put. We'll have the link in the show notes. Hit translate if you need to for whatever language you need to go to. Don't use the one that geocache.com has, because you'll just get frustrated, I think. And
my thoughts are, you travel a long distance to get a new icon, right? That's why people are freaking out about Giga and the Ape Cache. People go down to Brazil to get that icon. Well, that works both ways, not just going to get one, but owning them too, right? Earth Cache, that's a hard one to do. And who would want to say anyway? But Earth Cache, Whereigo, Puzzle. One of the things we do as cachers is we like lists, right? We want to populate lists, fill them out. Well, under those caches that you published, that's one that you can do. Even if you never want to go through the trouble to do Earth Cache, you can add Whereigo on there. Don't not get that icon because it's a little bit extra trouble. Reach out to somebody. You can put one out in your area, and people, if there's not one in your area, people will be very happy because it's the first one they can go get, and it'll be popular. People want to go do that. They want to get that icon and not have to travel 5 miles for it, or 5 hours for it. Yeah.
If you get and once you do start getting advanced, it can go crazy. Like you were talking about, you did a series in Nebraska. It's the A through Z Whereigos. Zach was talking about before the show that there's a GeoArt that's Whereigos.
Yeah,
37 Whereigos. It made a ghost. Made the virtual looking item.
And there's some really neat ones out there, and and they. One of the ones that I did, I couldn't get permission in this park. It was a national park to hide a physical cache, but they would let me do a Whereigo virtual one all throughout the park, and then put the final right outside the gate.
Oh yeah,
so it was cool. I thought that was great. The ranger would let me do that, So it can go into areas that you couldn't normally have a cache. So, and we know everywhere needs a cache. So
no, absolutely
all over the world, right?
Yeah. Well, so. That whole concept, and we need to wrap up tonight, but that's the whole concept of there's a spot in your town and you really want, and there's only like one cache maybe there, but people are missing maybe parts of this park or this walking tour area. People are missing it because it's within don't get me started on why it's 528 feet. I think it's too big. I think it needs to be at least half that. Because in urban areas, I think it's too much. But you could have your Whereigo slip into where that traditional is and wander around near that traditional, long as your final's outside of that zone. Now you've allowed people to not only get the traditional in this cool park that you want people to walk around in, but now they can go. They need to go into the park for the Whereigo, experience more of this cool park that maybe they're going to miss, and then you finish out somewhere else. So you don't want to be too far, right? Or you're going to really. I think you'll drive people crazy, right?
Yeah, there are some long ones that are pretty crazy. You'd want to warn somebody that cross state lines and everything else. But just like any other cache type, warn the people before you're doing it, and if they know what they're getting into when they start it, that's kind of their choice, right? Hey, this multi will take you 5, hours to complete. Okay, you just need to warn somebody. This Whereigo, same thing. Give them a little warning there. Don't just like, haha, tricked you.
Right.
That'd be kind of mean. But
That's
just
really
like any
bad.
other cache type. So, and I think especially if you're new to an area and people start doing it, if you're, your area doesn't have a lot of them, it's a great chance to get a high favorite point cache in your area. So,
yeah, yep. And last comment, we're going to wrap up. Jesse, is people want you to do a building session sometime on Whereigo. So maybe next year.
I think
Can
we
you
could.
build one?
Yeah. So
we could. Next time we'll do it.
Yeah, we've talked about this, and I've tried to build manuals before to help people step by step, but the manual gets more complicated than you ever need. It's too complicated.
Yeah.
But I bet we could figure out some kind of
Make one
online hangout session where we could help people build them.
Yeah, we'll work on something. Yeah, we'll figure out something. Maybe we'll see what we can do. That's a good idea. That was Kindle signature to that. So, last thoughts, Jesse. We'll wrap up.
Find a Whereigo, and then if you're one of those cachers that wants to have experienced everything, I would have to ask you, why have you not published a Whereigo?
Right. Find one. Go if you find one, build one. Whether it be small, start small. If it's going to be a little more, if there's more into it, I think, like you're talking about, Jesse, is if you feel like that there's a warning that needs to go along, like your wife probably would like to have had a warning on some of the ones you guys have done. I would have liked to have a warning on the one. I enjoyed it, the one you and I did together. But I would have liked to have at least known, okay, this is going to take some more walking than I expected. That's okay. I want at least a little bit of warning. So if you need to, think about what people are going to go through. So warn people if need be. And you got to go do them and go find some. There's a lot of cool ones out there. So spend the time and go do them.
If you have a question, shoot me an email.
Yeah.
Where do you want them? Help people with them. Just memphismafia@gmail.com.
Memphis, just Memphis Mafia, one word.
Yeah, no space, and Memphis with an F.
Yep, MEMFIS Mafia at, where are we going at?
Gmail.com.
Gmail.com. MemphisMafia@gmail.com. If you forget that, you could always send it to Geocache Talk at geocachetalk@gmail.com, and I'll forward it on, or Jesse will read it. So he's got access to that as well. So, all right. Well, folks, coming up on the show next week, we're back international. We're going to have Crystal. She'll be on, and we're going to talk about caching in Finland. So she's a Finnish geocacher. And so we're back international because this show is all about not only U.S. but international listeners. 55 countries we're in. The show after that is going to be, hang on, Android users. We promised you a show, and it's coming. In 2 weeks, we're geocaching with Stefan of GC Droid, and we'll talk all things Android. We'll talk obviously about his, but we'll talk about other. I think he won't have any problems. We'll talk about the other ones as well, but we'll focus probably more likely on GC Droid. Obviously, he's the owner of that one, but that'll be interesting to hear about with the Android. And then in 3 weeks, Jesse, tell us a little about the show and the show 77 in 3 weeks a little bit.
So
Dr. Polly?
We're going to have on Dr. Polly. He is a local teacher that I've met in person, and he's been interviewed by geocaching.com before, or GC headquarters.
Right.
And he has taken geocaching to the school. So he uses geocaching in educational format and started using it with his students. His students loved it, and even established a club at school, a geocaching club at school, and it's hugely popular. And I don't want to give any details that he does, but he uses it for educational purposes, and it's geocaching at school, and they put out caches, and that's all I'm going to say right now, but it's great. He's brought geocaching into the school, and it's hugely popular with the kids.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll love Dr. Polly will be on in 3 weeks, so we're looking forward to that as well. But we try to bring you all guys all sorts of different. We try to run the gamut, get you all sorts of different kinds of things, international and Android and Cachely, and we're going to do this with the teacher and everything. So looking forward to those shows. So we hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Please email us your comments at geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. A lot of stuff hits Twitter, and so make sure and do that at Geocache Talk. Or me personally, I'm at Gary Slinkard is my Twitter. Jesse is at Memphis_Mafia. Sydney is at ShermanatorGC, and our Facebook page is facebook.com/Geocache Talk. Show can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, as well as the Geocache Talk website. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button below so that you can see and hear the show on a weekly basis. Until next week, don't just talk about geocaching. Go create a Whereigo, and then go geocaching. Good night, everybody.
Good night.